Kale Podcasts. Rob Sanders.
Some would be entertained by it. Some would be horrified by
Kale
it.
Carolina Jackpot Hall.
All would be interested in it.
The Rob and Kale Podcasts.
Let's go.
And welcome in to the Rob and Kale Show podcast. Appreciate you guys joining the program today. Got, there's always all kind of stuff we can get into today that, might make a good program. We shall see. You never know at this juncture. When we get this close, at this point, we're all just sitting around looking at each other thinking, man, spot the damn ball already. That's kind of where we are here. So I think that obviously we're going to take calls. If you want to get into that, if you want to get into what we talked about last night with the win projections for South Carolina, we can get into that. I mean, we can talk about just about anything today as we roll along here on the program. The number to dial is 803-470-2905 as the phone lines are now open. We talked a little bit earlier about earlier this week about the Big Ten and their expansion and how their conference commissioner was talking at media days about, yeah, we're going to do what's best for us and we're going to expand out only if it makes sense. I want people to kick back for a second and just think about this for a minute. This is the same Big Ten that when we had the COVID pandemic, literally told all of their universities, you can go to hell. We're not even going to remotely try to play. Now, I know I rip on you SEC folks for a good bit, but the reality is that it came down to this. Commissioner Sankey went out there and put himself on the line and said, you know what? We're going to do the best we can to keep players safe, but we're going to play. And the Big Ten went and hid like a bunch of bitches, basically. Tristan, welcome to the show. During the day, I stream my little afternoon show here with on Carolina Jackpot's channel. You're obviously welcome to join the program as well. Anyway, let's not take that away from the good folks at the Big Ten. That when the going gets tough, the tough got going. And Kevin Warren wanted to hide in a box and not even remotely try to have a season when the pandemic happened. So anyway, just something that it's kind of funny. Now he's up there talking about, oh, we'll expand. Will you? Will you really? Yeah, I'm not really that impressed. I also kind of want to talk a little bit about G5 teams today that could pull off an upset, that could beat a Power 5 team this year. One of my favorites is Coastal Carolina. They play Virginia, and with that, that's going to I think they're going to beat Virginia. Some comments from the comics section. Shout out to Rob Youngson over there. Appreciate you, man. Let's see here. Tristan says, I also don't believe that unions are good for the sports, bro, and that's what the Big Ten is trying to do. I look, and I may piss some people off with this, but when unions were started, they were started over. I mean, my great grandfather was one of the gentlemen that set up the coal miners union in West Virginia. And the story goes that he would tell every Christmas, and obviously I never got to spend much time with him because he passed away. But the big thing is that the mine wouldn't pay for their canaries to go down in there. So they take a canary down there, and if the canary dies, okay, it's time for us to get out. There's not enough oxygen, poison, whatever. And they were making the miners pay for that, and they didn't think that was great. So with that, the unions were important back then. and I can understand that. But where we are now, especially with college football players trying to unionize, I just don't think that's going to work. I mean, if you're a college football player, especially at a Power 5 school, um, you are literally living in the lap of luxury as far as being a college student. You get a stipend, you have tutors that are going to make sure that you get your degree. You have obviously world-class facilities, world-class nutrition. I mean, has anybody seen, like, I know that, and I use Clemson as an example, but they've got it set up where you walk in if you're a player and you scan your ID, and they've got you on your food plan on what you're supposed to eat. You pick one of 4 options and they custom make that for you right then. So there's that. I think that, and people that say that a college degree and getting your education, that it's more than just that, obviously never has student loans. Okay. So with that, I don't think that the union thing will work, but that's a good point there from Tristan up there, bringing us something interesting there for the show. Brandon Kuhn says that Ricky Sandage is not going to play anymore. You hate to see that for a young man. It was thought that he was going to be an absolutely great player, but here's the big thing with that for South Carolina. He was counted on as being a starter. So who the hell's going to start for him now? Yeah. Daddy O with a good point. Unions have no legit stance in today's society with all the workplace laws in place. You're right. And it's not that I'm completely anti-union. There's some things that they do that are worthwhile, but it's especially nowadays where everybody has one of these and everybody can record anything at a moment's notice and shame the hell out of a program, an organization in a nanosecond. Yeah, I especially like union dues are what, like, I mean, you have to pay a good bit to be in a union. Anyway, didn't want to get on the whole union thing today, but yeah, that's there. All right, we'll take calls at 803-470-2905. Harry Leggs says unions by and large are corrupt. Yeah, they are. They are. I mean, it's not like it was back in the 30s, you know? Anyway, we'll take calls this afternoon on that at 803-470-2905. If you want to talk about the unions with college football, we can get into that. Uh, Jay says Rob's out of work lesbian trucker union dues are still rolling in. That's funny. Leonard says any chance Crackpot is willing to introduce Heupel to his weight loss plan? It seems to be working so well. Why you want to mock somebody about their weight? I don't get that. It's really funny too when people will mock me about my weight, and it's like, you fuckers can work out with me, period. But anyway, Captain G says unionizing and going too far with NIL could alienate the fan base. Sport popularity is what gives these players value. Yeah. You know what? We're going to highlight that. Captain G, that might end up being the comment of the day. Here's the thing too, and this is something that's going to come about that maybe a lot of people don't really think about. But you don't have you may not end up with the relationship that you would normally have with a college player because a lot of these guys are going to transfer out. And I'll give you a perfect example on this. I am a Green Bay Packers fan. Okay. It hurt my soul when Brett Favre decided to leave that team and go play somewhere else. Absolutely hurt my soul because I had a relationship with him, growing up with him and growing up with him as a player, and him coming in and throwing the ball all over the place. I was a Brett Favre guy. And to see him in a Jets uniform and a Minnesota Vikings uniform was absolutely one of the worst things that I could ever possibly see. And this could come back to bite you on the college front. Now, you're not going to have like a 10 and 15 year career there, however many years he was with the Green Bay Packers, which you could have, though. You could have a young man like, I don't know. We can go with Georgia or how about let's go with Georgia with Stetson Bennett. Came in, won the national title, and was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go somewhere else. How hardcore is that? You've got Burton, who played for Georgia last season and then transferred to Alabama. He is a first-team preseason All-SEC player. Last season, he was wearing a damn Georgia uniform. Now he's over there wearing that damn Alabama uniform. If you're a Georgia fan, doesn't that piss you off just a little bit? You don't have that relationship anymore with him. Now you're like, man, to hell with this guy. I mean, technically, he's a Bulldog, but now he's not. And that's just something that is gone now. And it's kind of sad. Harry Legg says, horse crap he is. That's a good point, sir. Money is stronger than loyalty. I kind of agree with Daddy-O on that. I'm also one of those people that when I really stop and think about it, I wish that we could go back in time a little bit. And I sound like I'm an old man. You know what I'm saying? One of the crazy old man on that's, talking to you here through the microphone. And, I want things back to the way they used to be. Yeah. I just like the idea of, hey, you commit somewhere and you go and play there. But on the other hand, players can come to us and be like, you know what? I committed to play for insert coach here, and that coach isn't there anymore. I'll give you an example of that. Jamie Robinson is it Jamie Robinson? I think that's the young man that was at South Carolina, ended up, he's at Florida State now, and he's a preseason All ACC pick. You think he couldn't help that South Carolina defense right now? Absolutely, he could. He absolutely could. But as of right now, he's playing for somebody else. So the loyalty aspect of it is gone. It really is. Harry says Burton could not stay on the field because he was a me guy. Good riddance. And, I honestly, and, Harry may be right about that. My big thing with that, though, is that he wore that Georgia uniform, was out there obviously celebrating when they beat Alabama last year. Now he's playing for Alabama. And I'm not just running. I mean, he's just an example. You could go with Toto for Alabama that played at Tennessee, was out there in the Tennessee heat sweating. And all of a sudden, he's like, yeah, I'm going to play at Alabama. Biscuit says, has anyone started making fun of Tennessee yet? Look, here's the thing. I can show you direct messages and stuff that I get on Twitter, Messenger, etc. But Tennessee fans come hard. We'll give them that. And it seems like I mock Tennessee fans. The stuff with the violations is more me pissed off at the NCAA for being a bunch of eunuchs. By the way, when I use the term eunuch, some of you know what that means. Some of you ask me and later on. Go Google eunuch. It's basically a ballless individual. Anyway, when it comes back down to it, though, I get more frustrated with the NCAA than I do, and it seems like I'm taking it out on Tennessee. I'm not. Tennessee fans do that to themselves. Harry Legg says something that might set the world on fire. Toto is not a top LB. Film doesn't lie. You might be right about that. Mr. Boogie says Tennessee fans do that to themselves. You might be right about that too. If I were going to come on the program and mock an actual program, I mean, just a program that I don't like, I don't really, as a Clemson guy, I don't really have issues with South Carolina. They're South Carolina. The one team that I like to mock, though, is NC State, because fuck those guys. I stand by that. I can't stand Dave Doran. If I were just a petty individual, I could sit on here and talk about how they were all went out to the, whatever the hell bowl they got to, And well, the other team didn't play because of COVID, so they just took the trophy anyway. They didn't fucking earn it. They just took the trophy. And Dave Doran was like, "Oh, we're taking that trophy." What a scandalous ass he is. My Twitter handle there, Daddy-O, is at Rob Sounds Good. So tweet at me there. Harry Leg says we graded the CFPG and he barely broke 60. Leonard with a good point here. Oh, Biscuit. Let me put Biscuit's comment up there. They are again this year. They think they're going 5-0 going into Alabama. Leonard says what's going to be interesting is when some of these high-level NIL recruits come in and struggle, how are the lower-rated guys on the roster outperforming them going to feel about being undervalued? Or what happens when you have Stetson Bennett or a young man like Stetson Bennett that the coaches have said, this is our guy. I don't give a shit if you are a 5-star guy. You're going to sit on the bench, and this guy's going to take the snaps. Man, you're looking around, these NIL people, if they're not completely in bed with the program, they're looking at it from a perspective of, wait a minute, we gave this guy $100,000 and he's over there holding a fucking clipboard. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Yeah, that's not going to work. Money's going to be ended up killing everything. Mickey says, go Georgia Dogs, diehard Georgia fan, but love y'all show. Well, thank you, sir. You don't have to be a Georgia fan or a South Carolina fan or whatever to enjoy this show. I get pissed off and get pissy and say things. Jackpot's rants on game day are one of the most epic things on YouTube. I will put it up against any programming anywhere. When Jackpot has a few Miller Lights and loses his shit, it is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Absolute funniest thing I have ever seen in my life. So there's that. Anyway, taking your calls, joining the show at 803-470-2905. We don't mock just one team here. Some people think we just pick at one team. We don't. Georgia fans were pissed at me last year for the shit I said about Kirby Smart. Pissed off. Okay, that's fine. I think we picked at everyone. You're right about that, Harry Leg. Jackpot is hilarious on live games. He is batshit crazy. I've actually gotten messages from people and they're like, is he all right? Crazy. Biscuit says the SEC East second, third, and fourth place all go 8-4. I don't know if the math will allow that there, Biscuit. Captain G says the NCAA incompetence as far as foresight is going its own demise when the dust settles with conference realignment. Could be a new governing body. We've talked about that too. But I also think, and we've talked about this too, one of the bigger realignment chips is Notre Dame. I didn't know that Notre Dame is their $15 million is what their payout is from NBC. And that contract ends in 2025. And if I'm NBC, unless I can get the same deal, I'm not giving them any more money. Why the hell would I do that? I don't think Notre Dame is like a ratings draw. I know the Catholics love them, but it's not really a ratings draw. But if I'm Notre Dame too, I'm going to want that $70 million I can get from the Big Ten or the SEC or whoever, one of those two major conferences. So there's that. It's going to happen by the end of 2025. Notre Dame will join a conference. I don't know where they're going to be yet, but we shall see. Pagan Megan says, who were the Georgia fans pissed off at you last year? I think we all took it well. Some of you did. Some people got really mad. Alan says, I make him mad. Daniel says, Rob, talking trash about UGA lets you know that victory is just around the corner. Thank you for that, sir. Jay says, Clemson fans piss him off. Well, I'm surprised you were able to string together 4 words there, but good for you. Hello, Hollywood Jr. Welcome to the program. Anyway, 803-470-2905. That is the number to dial if you would like to join us here on the program. 803-470-2905. If you would like to talk with us a little bit here today. As we have the Thursday show here. I think camp starts like next week. It's crazy. How many of you degenerates, by the way, when is the Hall of Fame game? Hold on, let me look that up. I have to admit, when the Hall of Fame game comes around, even though the starters don't play, Thursday, August 4th, so a week from today, we will have NFL football, if you want to call it that, when the Las Vegas Raiders will take on the Jacksonville Jaguars at 8 o'clock on a Thursday night. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll all be watching that game, even though it sucks. But hey, us degenerates will be placing bets on it. You know you will, because it's the first game of the season. It's not like the Comrade's got the best bet story, by the way. That he went to Las Vegas and made a bet on a WNBA game. There were probably 8 people watching the game, and he was one of them to see if he could get a bet on the New York Liberty. Fucking Comrade with his nonsense. Mickey says it's hard to get mad when you're 2021 national champions. Man, it's great being up top there, isn't it? It's a great thing. Alan says Vandy makes $32 million a year on TV money. Well, they're going to be getting $80 million a year when the SEC gets their new contract. And by the way, other teams are going to see that. Other schools are going to see that, and they're going to be looking at their conference, most likely the ACC here, which, in my opinion, is a dead man walking. That's pretty much what the ACC is, as what we've known it. It really is. That conference has gone to shit because they're not going to have the TV money. They're really not. Let's read Leonard's comment here. Brian Kelly's hire at LSU reminds me of when Saban came to Bama, both around the same age when they made the move. Similar past successes, although Saban had a title. Great hire on the Bayou. Well, what is it? The last LSU fans will be happy to tell you this. The last 3 coaches that have coached at LSU have won national titles. Nick Saban, Les Miles, and of course Ed Orgeron. So yeah. LSU just recruits, man. I mean, if you look at the number of 4- and 5-star players that they get, it's just outstanding. They get a ton of them. A lot of guys to go there, and they dump a lot of money into their program. I got to bring Biscuits up here too, because that's a great point. Big Ten fans think Ohio State and Michigan are both making the playoffs. If the only way that could happen, here's what would have to happen with that. Bama would need 2 losses. Georgia would need 2 losses. Clemson would need 2 losses. Whoever wins the Big 12 would have to be a 2-loss team. Whoever's in the Pac-12 would be a 2-loss team. And Notre Dame would have to have 3 losses. That is the only way that you get 2 teams from the Big Ten or from any conference that does not have the heavyweights that are Alabama and Georgia in it. Okay? That's the only way that it gets there, is if you have all of those conferences end up with 2-loss teams and, you got a 2-loss conference champion. And you want to know the sad thing? I would take a 2-loss Georgia team this year or a 2-loss Alabama team over any of those teams from the Big Ten. They are all hot dog water, in my opinion. Jay says, Rob, speaking of dead man walking, you think Dabo's been watching that movie Get Hard to get ready for jail? Dabo Sweeney's not going to jail. Tristan says, why is the NCAA about to make it where players can transfer whenever and however many times you want? What is that? Well, I can tell you why. Because someone's going to take them to court. And there are senators, and you know what? We'll name them on this show because they're dickheads. Cory Booker from New Jersey has used the term that college football is legalized slavery. And when you start dropping words like that, and it's not a Republican Democrat thing, it's just an idiot thing. Because there are some Republicans that think that way too. They may not say it in public, but he's used that term, college football is legalized slavery. and they don't want to get it to a point where they get into the NCAA looks at it from this perspective. If it goes to the courts and it gets to a point where the Senate and Congress have anything to do with it, remember, nothing that the government gets into full bore is better. The government can't help you with anything. Okay? If you let the government try to fix college football in their minds, they're going to destroy it. It'll be whacked out before the end of time. But they also know that they would probably lose that in court. And the idea of like, look, we might as well just come off of it now, save the attorney fees, and go from there. Because they would probably lose that argument in court. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that that's probably what would happen. 803-470-2905, 803-470-2905. Alan says TV deals, new term is media rights media deal. What is the correct term? I just call it broadcast rights, basically. So anyway, 803-470-2905 if you want to join the show. Peg and Megan with a good comment there. Look, and but make sure that, and I don't want people taking what I said and saying, oh, Rob said this. No, no, no. Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey, has said this in the past. College football is legalized slavery. He has said that. I don't agree with that. Okay? I think that if you go to college and they pay for your books, they pay for your tutoring, they pay for your tuition, they give you a place to live, and you walk away with your degree and you have no debt, that's a hell of a deal. People that bitch and complain about that, by the way, obviously have never had student loans. They were never 18 years old and went and had to like go and take out, big time loans to go to college. I do think it's whacked out though on some of the name, image, and likeness stuff where if a guy wants to go run a camp during the summer and work with some kids and the parents pass the hat around and give him $200, then I don't think that's an issue. If a guy makes a YouTube channel like the Central Florida kicker did a couple of years ago, and he wasn't even talking about football, but he got traffic there because he was entertaining, and YouTube sent him money, and that's an NCAA violation. That shit needs to go away. I don't feel sorry for people like when Chris Webber was talking about when he was at Michigan, oh, these guys are making hundreds of thousands of dollars off of my jersey, and I'm struggling to eat. Well, no, sir, you were lying to us because we know that you got paid to go to Michigan, which is why they had to vacate those Final Four appearances. So, yeah, I mean, you have to, life comes at you in shades of gray. I believe that. And I think that these kids should get something for their likeness, but you shouldn't have Quinn Ewers going to Ohio State and never taking a snap and getting a six-figure salary for just sitting on the bench up there. And then he transfers to Texas and gets another six figures. Show me where that makes any sense. And by the way, if I'm an offensive lineman and this guy behind me is getting six figures and I'm getting fucking free Slurpees from 7-Eleven and that's it, you think I'm going to be motivated to block for this asshole? There's going to be guys that are going to think that way. There really are. It's a mess. Let's see here. Jay says that statement sugarcoats what slavery was. Exactly. Exactly. Because here's the thing, and nobody has the balls, by the way, to ask Cory Booker this. If you're playing in college and you decide, you know what, I don't want to play here anymore, you can walk your ass right on out. See you later. You can do that. You're not chained together to another guy and made to pick cotton for 19 hours a day. That's what slavery is. So that's Jay with a great comment. It cheapens what slavery actually was. And that's the depressing part. Tristan says, should Reggie Bush get his Heisman back? No, they cheated. But then again, I don't necessarily agree with the Heisman anyway. It's a pretty boy award. Nick with a good comment there. People literally go in the military for those benefits. That's what I did. I went into the Coast Guard because I did not want student debt. But that's just me. I also think as a society, I think everybody should serve 4 years like they do in Israel, but that's something that'll piss people off to the end of time. Anyway, 803-470-2905, 803-470-2905. Tell Cory Booker to go to Haiti and see 200,000 real slaves. Yeah. Yeah. He sits up there in his pulpit and then drops stuff like that and expects people to just latch on to it. And he's just trying to grab headlines, and it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. If he really cared about college football players, what he should do is set it up where, look, all right, you were there, you didn't get your degree. We're going to do something at each university to set it up where you can come back and get your degree. I know they do that at Georgia. I know they do it at Clemson. I know they do it at South Carolina. Guys that go into the NFL after year 3, the university a lot of times picks up the tab when these guys come back if after their NFL careers and lets them finish their degree. If you truly cared about the student athlete, that's what you would do. Or better yet, when they want to talk about women's rights and all that stuff too, if you have a woman that goes to college, plays 2 years, whatever, and something happens to her and she can't play anymore, let's set up funding where she was there, she did her time, we can help her get her degree. That makes sense too, but nobody really wants to hear that, right? Nobody really wants to hear that. If Cory Booker truly fucking cared, that's what he would do. And any other asshole that wants to sit up here and talk about all the I'm here for the student athletes. No, you're really not. You're really not. You're here to make headlines, and you're here to get people that don't actually read and don't actually understand things to rally behind you to get your sorry ass more votes. And that's sad. That's absolutely sad. All right, 803-470-2905. Alan says, my wife served in her home country and I drank beer at UGA. You know, America says you can do that, man. Nothing wrong with that. Alan, did you buy your wife? Is that what it came down to? Did you get one of those Russian brides? Not judging. We don't judge here on the program. Tristan says, with conference realignment, I can see Sankey handling it with ease because of the pressure he had with COVID. He handled it like a dream. Can the Big Ten commissioner handle it? No. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. When they were faced with COVID, he point blank said, we're not doing shit. We're not doing nothing. We're just kicking back and we're going to ride this out like it's a hurricane party. We're not going to do nothing. Greg Sankey had a satchel and said, you know what? We're going to be safe. But I've got, you know, these universities, a lot of them have hospitals and stuff, and they've got some of the brightest medical minds in the world. And I'm going to lean on some of them and get the absolute best way that we can do this and put our product on the field. That's what he did, and it worked. And then everybody else got behind him, including the ACC. And these are all facts, by the way. You can go and look it up. The Pac-12 followed the Big Ten. The Big 12 basically followed what the SEC was doing. And then once the Pac-12 and the Big Ten seen what was happening, they're like, oh, maybe we should follow that too. Maybe we shouldn't be eunuchs, and maybe we should go out there and actually try to have a season. And you know what? That season, by the way, we give Alabama, I think Alabama won the national title that season, but we give Alabama shit and calling it a COVID year. But you know what? Our country absolutely needed college football that year. Absolutely needed it. Whether you're a fan of an SEC team, ACC team, your mama's team, your dad, doesn't matter. Our country needed that because we got kicked in the face with this COVID stuff and we didn't know what the hell was happening. We had no clue. But you know what? We all came together, even though we couldn't go out into the stands, couldn't really do any of that. But you know what? Especially socially, on social media and things like that, we all came back together and we talked about college football instead of masks and mandates and everything else. It was back to, your team sucks an asshole because I don't like your coach. Yeah, but we can have a beer later on. We can do that. Our country absolutely needed that, and we should thank Greg Sankey for that because he led the way with that. Which, by the way, now he's leading the way with this expansion stuff, and you got everybody else just trying to keep up. And all of them are watching, waiting to see what Greg Sankey's going to do. You know why? Because he's a fucking leader, that's why. And everybody followed him before, and it all worked out. It's a mess when you really stop and think about it, that we have a society full of pussy conference commissioners that are just waiting to see what Greg Sankey is going to do because they're scared of it. They're scared of going out there and falling on their faces if they do it on their own. Oh, we're going to expand. Yeah, really, Kevin Warren? You can go to hell with that shit. Nobody's buying that. Super chat from Tristan Smith. Thank you, sir. I like this show enough to show a little love. I just got here, but I'm going to stick around. I am not a fan of South Carolina. No, sir. I am a Clemson fan. Yep, stand by that too. Well done. Czech is a good choice. Biscuit says he's a quarter Slovak. Kirby says, just like Karl Marx said, you will give all your personal property up to the state. Hairy Leg, it's on the beer song by Bubba Wilson. I don't know what that means. Big Barney Ross says he ordered a bride from Czechoslovakia. I just called a check on her. They told me the check's in the mail. Damn it, Big Barney Ross. What surprised me, Big Barney Ross had like 4 wives stowed away. Just, one of those things. Good point from Kirby's visor. SEC won't add any more teams and stays at 16, letting the Big 25 take all the blame for ruining college football. There is an argument for quality over quantity. Okay? When you really stop and think about it, do you think the Big Ten gets better on the football front with Southern Cal and UCLA joining them? I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think it's that way at all, to be honest with you. Is the SEC better with Texas and Oklahoma? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And the SEC could probably add a couple more teams. But here's the thing. I kind of believe what was said about that. The Oklahoma and Texas approached them. Okay? If Notre Dame approaches the SEC and is like, look, we want to get in on that TV money too, the SEC will look at it and be like, all right, we got to have another team. You can insert whoever here, whether it's Clemson, whether it's Miami, who knows at this point. But it's going to end up being a couple of teams are going to end up going either to the Big Ten or the SEC and asking, hey, can I get in on that money? Can I get in on that money? And I'm telling you, Notre Dame, when that deal runs out in 2025, I will be stunned if NBC repicked them back up. Daddy O with the super chat. I'm willing to pay when we all agree Washington is all of our enemy. Okay. Kirby's visor says, I'd take Clemson and Miami in the SEC. That's it. Big Barney Ross says the Big Ten is trying to compete with the Sun Belt. I'm telling y'all, write this down now. I'm giving you SEC folks a little something here. Virginia plays Coastal Carolina this year. I think Coastal Carolina beats them. You SEC folks want something to laugh at about an ACC team. There's your laugh box right there. Coastal Carolina is going to beat that ass. Write it down. Take a picture. Would you want Notre Dame in the SEC? Think about that for a minute. If you could have Notre Dame and Clemson, would you rather have Notre Dame and Clemson or Clemson and Miami? Think about it. Big Barney Ross says he likes Clemson and North Carolina. See, I'm a little bitter towards North Carolina for the whole they gave away African American studies degrees out of an Arby's window to guys that couldn't even fucking read. So I'm not a North Carolina guy at all. Okay. I'd like North Carolina to get shut out. And hey, you can go and play Duke every year in basketball, and ESPN will continue to feed you the lie that that's the biggest rivalry in college sports, and it's not. It's not. I get so sick of that shit. Oh, this is the biggest rivalry in college sports. Let me explain something to you. You go to an Alabama Auburn game where people want to absolutely fucking kill each other, 80,000 fans in the stands. That's a rivalry. Not a bunch of blue bloods sitting watching basketball with one and done players that are heading to the NBA. That's not a rivalry. That's horse shit. It's not a rivalry at all. You give me some of those old South rivalries. Georgia and Auburn used to be, I know Georgia's kind of owned that series, but that's one of the longest, most bitter rivalries ever. Those schools used to hate each other. Same way with Georgia and Florida now. Clemson and South Carolina don't like each other. I've been at game. I went to the South Carolina Clemson game where they were fighting in the stands and on the field. That's a real rivalry. But you got these softies at ESPN telling us, "Oh, this college basketball is the best." Fuck off with all that. I don't watch any of that shit. And I know that sounds like I'm being ultra petty with that. I don't watch it simply because they spoon feed it to me and they try to make me think that it's absolutely the most best rivalry ever when I'm smart enough to know that it's not. It's really not. Anyway, I've been ranting about stupid stuff today. Sorry about that. Daddy O says VT has an SEC game day environment. Daddy O says, I don't respect any wine and cheese rivalries. Exactly. I love how they try to build this up too. They always show the same video clip every year with like Eric Montross with his nose busted. I don't give a shit about that. No one cares. Absolutely no one cares. No one cares at all. Tristan's comment says, I would probably shoot a Florida fan for a sideways comment. I hate them in Alabama too. Go Vols. Well, and here's the thing. If Tennessee beat Alabama this year, now don't run around saying Rob said they're going to beat them, but if Tennessee beat Alabama this year, they would burn Knoxville to the ground. I remember when South Carolina had their big losing streak, they went 0-11. They were like 1-21 in 2 seasons. When they finally beat, I think it was New Mexico State, they ripped the damn goalpost down and carried them to 5 points. Which, for those of you that don't know, Williams-Brice Stadium is on Bluff Road. 5 points is like 3 miles away. The students literally ripped them out of the ground and toted them to 5 points and lost their mind. Football is the absolute most better sport when it comes to fan support and everything else. I like basketball, but not to that extent. Anyway. All right, final call for calls 803-470-2905. I'm sorry if I got too I'm trying to get political today, but I guess I threw some politics out there. I didn't mean to. Cory Booker can suck an asshole, though. I stand by that. That guy's a douche. He's a douche tip. All right, support the show. PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, if you would like to do that. Jackpot and I do another show on Sunday. Man, that's the start of like camp week. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's coming up right up on us. And I'm going to do a show tomorrow. So looking forward to that. All right. As always, I appreciate you guys over there. It's great that you guys spend some time with me every day. And as always, thank you for making this show good because you're just as big a part of it as I am. And we will see you tomorrow.